So this guy was playing a whole lot of alpha. Let's see what he had to say. We're just kind of just going around, just going through it, man.
Playing the private alpha for the War Within thanks to Blizzard, and this is my honest first impressions and takeaway from the private alpha and Q&A with the WoW development team. The short of it, WoW is back folks, it really is, and it's bloody gorgeous, and let me explain why shortly. This video is a first impressions review. I'll keep it broad, no deep dives into dungeon mechanics or boss designs. If you're into those details, live on this YouTube channel.
So he's playing Prop Pally right now. Slamming.
Channel are already 6 other videos that cover literally everything you need to know from the War Within Alpha. They cover namely all 8 dungeons coming into Mythic Plus in the new expansion, preview of the brand new raid in the...
Look at this. You guys see? My stream is being recommended as War Within content. Let's go. YouTube, show me some love. Hey, these are also, this is my short, isn't it? Nice. Thanks, YouTube.
The Rhubar Palace, a full tour of the new capital city Donegal, everything you need to know about Delves, the brand new feature coming in the expansion, and a complete playthrough of 2 separate dungeons, Cinderbrew Meadery and the Rookery. All these videos are neatly organized in a playlist linked in the video description and pinned comments below. So let's start, and let me talk about why the War Within signals a glorious comeback for retail WoW. We must start with Warbands. This is the new feature that stole the show at BlizzCon. The loudest cheers were reserved for this. In essence, Warbands simply means account-wide progression for almost everything. It's clear why it's the top of my highlight from the alpha. Blizzard has made a monumental shift in their philosophy towards making progress shared across your entire account, across all of your characters. And they told us behind closed doors, during a press conference, that starting in the War Within, this is a philosophy they're adopting for the future. And from the moment I logged into the alpha, it's clear. Blizzard means business. The Warband login screen greets you. You have your characters gathered around a fireside, pets included if your class uses them, a really nice touch.
I kind of feel like the characters need to be like a little bit more like Lost Ark, where they're like sitting down, or like, you know, instead of just all just like kind of standing there, they should have them like interacting with the environment somehow. You know, they look a little static that way. But this is really cool though. I think that's really cool.
But gone are the days of a singular character with a major city as your backdrop. WoW is here to embrace you playing multiple characters easily, and is more than just a login visual treat. Ion Hazikostas explained that Warband is set to redefine gameplay, emphasizing almost universal account-wide benefits everywhere. This means easier farming for transmogs, gearing for your ults where you can send gears from your main, and a general easing of previous restriction. This is a big nod to player freedom.
So, do you think it's gonna be a situation? I don't think it is. It doesn't seem to me to be this way. But do you think you're gonna be held back by not playing alts? I don't think so. But like, one of the things that gets tricky is when content is so focused on alts. It's like sometimes you don't have enough to do on your main. You know what I mean? It's like, there's not that much going on, so you make alts. But it's like, it'd be nice to just have enough to do on my main, because I'm kind of like a main character playing kind of guy. But I don't think it's going to be like Lost Ark, where you like have to play multiple characters to get the most out of your... To like actually have the strongest experience for your one character. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Letting us decide how we want to have fun in WoW. Gone is
the
old Blizzard
that
is seen as the fun police. Gone is the belief you need to slog for your gear, your player power through repeatable and grindable dailies. Cynically seen as many of us who took a break in Shadowlands as a cheap way to boost playtime metrics. The Warband feature in the private alpha was a clear indicator that the old ways are gone. And we saw this with the drops and vendor rewards in the alpha build. Account-wide is here to stay. And in the private alpha, the Warband feature even lets you track the same quest progress across different characters. During a closed-door interview, the dev team shared with us creators that the Warband is not just a new feature, but a major overhaul in terms of how they manage player data. Traditionally, WoW player data was character-specific, requiring substantial effort to make anything account-wide from the development team. Now, with the groundwork laid by the Warband system, achievements, reputation gains, and gear rewards are by default account-wide, without additional work from the dev team. As a player who enjoys switching between classes and specs and ults for Mythic Plus, the Warband implementation in the alpha is what really excites me. Wow.
Yeah, I like we were talking about with like renown grind. Yeah, it absolutely like makes sense and sounds like really good for you to like have your renown gains on any of your characters contribute to your renown overall. Like that feels good in my opinion. I don't play a ton of alts, but it makes sense that like all of your playtime feels like you're making gains overall, right? It's not like, oh man, like I'm playing this character, but my renown, I could have better renown on my main if I just played my main the whole time, or whatever, you know. It actually feels good. Like no matter what I'm doing, I'm putting in time, and my whole account is getting stronger. Like that feels good. I like that. Even if I don't play a ton of alts, it still feels good to me. You're always making gains, right? Instead of starting over, right? It's good.
It's becoming more alt-friendly than ever. We're not all able to grind endlessly for power anymore in our adult life, and it's comforting to know I can enjoy all my classes at a high level without the tedious grind that I used to be required to do. Next up.
So you said you first have one of each class. Curious if the new alt system will have me get Resto Shaman gear if I'm maining in DK. You'll probably get some kind of currency that you can use, right? To like buy gear. Instead of like a piece of male gear dropped for your Resto Shaman and you can't send it to your DK now or whatever. Like it's probably, you probably get like currency, if I had to guess.
Up is Delves, and I will admit I'm wrong here, especially after playing the alpha. I wasn't 100% sold on the new Delve content when it was announced at BlizzCon. I assumed back then
Just
it
blasting
would be
through
very
this as a
simple,
Fury Warrior, I think it'd be really fun.
outgearable content. But after getting my hands-on time in the alpha, I completely changed my mind. Now,
really
for a detailed deep dive on Delves, check out the dedicated video live on this channel. But here's the gist. Delves are a new type of PvE content in WoW's The War Within expansion. They are designed for solo players or small groups of up to 4. As you explore the new continent, you will sometimes chance upon entrances to Delves. And Delves are scalable in difficulty, and you can select the difficulty levels and the better rewards that correspond to them as you progress. You go into Delves for various different activities, from battling enemies, rescuing allies, to defeating bosses and discovering treasures. A unique feature is the follower system, specifically Brand Bronzebeard, who has his own talent trees and abilities that levels up as you progress through the Delve and you earn follower XP.
I also like that. I think that's very cool. The follower XP thing and making gains on your follower I think is sick. Like I thought, so they have like the follower dungeons, right? How fun would it be for you to like rank up your followers? Like you can give, like they get loot and they get upgrades to their loot and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool. So you have like a jacked up team of AI running dungeons with you. So if the fact that like Braun or whoever your follower is, if it's like a different follower for different dungeons levels up, that's really cool. I don't know if they get gear, but they do seem to get experience and probably like learn new abilities and stuff. That's really neat. Things like back and watch. But yeah, but you actually can like play with the AI characters, right? They're not just like a mobile clicked in, like they run out, do their mission, and then 5 hours later they come back and you win or lose. No, they actually like are on your team and you're running dungeons with them, right? That'd be neat. And then they actually get gear upgrades and stuff. And that's kind of like a very small version of that with this guy, which is neat. You have like your AI follower that levels up. It's kind of cool.
Lets him learn interrupts, crowd controls, AoE DPS cooldowns, and you can even toggle amongst the other roles you don't play. For example, as a tank, that will be a healer or DPS. Now you might wonder, what's in it for me really as an endgame player? The answer, really straightforward. Gearing your ults. As you progress on your main character, you will unlock higher tiers of delves and more importantly level up your follower. And this progress is applicable to the Warbands system. This is also echoed by Blizzard in a private Q&A. They mentioned that at the endgame, your follower could become very powerful, hard carrying your freshly minted ult to get starter ult gear in Delves when you first start out. And from what we know, Delves provide gear in 2 main ways. Number one,
carrying your ults with your AI follower you beefed up. I love that actually.
And while these gear rewards might not be top of the line, they offer fair compensation for starter gear, considering how you can complete the Delves in 5 to 10 minutes.
That kind of answers one of my questions, right? It's like you're not going to have insane gear from this, but if it's really good for gearing your alts or whatever, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, do 2s with your AI follower, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, you get this juiced up follower that just carries all of your little newbie alts through the Delves to get them gear. That's cool.
More importantly for endgame alt players, Delves also contribute to your weekly vault. This is brand new. And the highest tier offering in Delves actually gives rewards comparable to a M+5 in the new expansion, which is the same as doing a +15 key in the current Season 3 of Dragonflight. Blizzard designed Delves not just for players gearing fresh ults, but also for those less interested in traditional endgame content like Mythic Plus raids or PvP. This approach,
right, like I said, like so it won't give you the tip top, but it's like okay, I guess that's Plus 15, is that better than normal gear? Is it like a little bit, or is it about normal? Because that's kind of what I expected. But anyway, that sounds fine. Makes sense, right?
Of course, gives players way more freedom in how they engage with WoW, as you're doing this PvE content in a judgment-free zone. Just you, your friends, and Brand Bronzebeard. Now, during our discussion, Blizzard also highlighted that delves would feature random changes in enemy and trap placements, keeping the content fresh as it scales. With various zones, themes, and varying difficulty tiers, I do think delves turned out to be a great addition, especially for gearing fresh ults. It's an always-on catch-up mechanism in the future, and I intend to fully exploit it for my ults. Next up, the new Mythic Plus dungeons. Naturally, as a Mythic Plus enthusiast, I've already previewed the 8 new dungeons in a detailed video on this channel, link is in the description, but I'm impressed with Blizzard's response to community feedback on the dungeon bosses. 4 out of the 8 dungeons as of the private alpha now only features 3 bosses. Likely a nod to the unpopular tyrannical affix. It seems Blizzard acknowledges the dislike for tyrannical affixes on certain weeks, but they aren't quite ready to remove tyrannical entirely. So as a compromise, they're opting for fewer bosses overall. So half of the dungeons now only have 3 bosses. This change appears to be a direct response to player feedback about the length and taxing nature of the dungeons in Season 2 in Dragonflight Mythic Plus, which could make completing a weekly key a chore. Now, from what I've seen, the new dungeons are designed to be quicker, more streamlined, and way more snappy. For instance, the Rookery is located right beside the brand new capital city. Talk about extreme convenience to get your weekly key done. And visually, some of these dungeons are stunning, like those in Halo 4 featuring a gorgeous skybox with a glowing artificial light.
I don't know when Alpha's coming up. You're saying Alpha's up tomorrow? Where are you getting that information from? That'd be interesting. I was honestly planning on playing No Rest for the Wicked tomorrow, but I mean, if Alpha's up, we might have to change our plans. Yeah, I want to play No Rest for the Wicked tomorrow, but I mean, like, I'm probably going to play No Rest for the Wicked until some WoW stuff comes out. I'm just so out of the loop on SOD and Modern WoW right now. It's just like, just gotta just do it, man.
Light source crystal that shifts between light and dark, reminiscent of a Naru. The purpose of this light source remains a mystery, and that's for you to find out for yourself in the new expansion. And aside from that, there's a variety of fresh visual themes, including a dungeon that transits from an airship to a ground-based combat within the same instance.
That's cool.
These new elements suggest that Blizzard is actively experimenting with dungeon environments, and that only bodes well for people like me who love Mythic Plus. Hero talents, yet another feature I was desperate to test on the private alpha.
Right, so I have looked at the warrior ones. If they've changed them, I'm not up to date on the changes. But on vacation for a week, so I'm kind of getting back into the groove here. I am very excited for hero talents. So he only has access to 2. Is that because his main spec is Prot, and so he can play like Prot Holy or Prot Brett? Is that right? Yeah.
I can tell you they
Slayer and Colossus work for me. So
did live up to the hype generated at BlizzCon. Now, big disclaimer, I think not all the hero talents are perfectly balanced. Some clearly need way more tuning and way more refinement. But hey, it's an alpha, and they successfully captured the essence of class expression, excitement, and freedom showcased during the BlizzCon debut.
Eventually just kind of get them all, right?
The War Within allows for seamless switching between hero talent choices at the click of a button. Finally, I can explore different aspects of my class fantasy without incurring any cost. A massive leap from the restrictive covenant system we had back in Shadowlands, which often felt like I was being shackled by the jailer into specific choices. And now, I know the biggest concern about hero talents is whether Blizzard can balance them properly, considering that we had the big issue about Covenant balancing in Shadowlands. However, Blizzard's handling of extensive talent trees revamp in Dragonflight gives me reasons to be optimistic. Despite the inherent challenges, the spread of spec DPS dispersion and output in raids have been more balanced than it has been for a long ass time. And yes, there will always be flavor of the month specs, no matter what. But Blizzard's quick response to feedback and adjustments during Dragonflight showed a commitment to balance and player satisfaction. Are there talent trees that need a lot more work from Dragonflight? Yes, but they are the minority. And from what I've seen in the
probably just playing a lot of Slayer. That's what I'm thinking.
Alpha, the foundation for hero talents is solid. If Blizzard continues with diligent tuning and remains responsive to community feedback, especially those from the class forums, there's a strong potential for hero talents to be a highlight in the coming expansion. It's no small feat to tune the hero talents properly, but given their track record in the Dragonflight expansion, I'm hopeful that these new hero talents will be warmly received by the time launch day comes around. Next, let's talk about the story. As someone who usually focuses on Mythic Plus and the more sweaty aspects of WoW, it says a lot that I'm dedicating a segment of this video to the story of the War Within. I won't spoiler you with anything, but just know from the first zone that we got to test in the alpha build, there are already moments in the main story that made me do a double take, like did I read that correctly? During a closed door press Q&A with the Blizzard dev team, someone asked the question regarding the story, and Blizzard kept their lips sealed, almost in a you will see sort of manner. And I can't wait to see everyone's reaction to certain developments. And this is in line with what Chris Madsen said at BlizzCon. Indeed, The War Within kicks off Blizzard's most ambitious storyline to date, and they wasted no time in showing
so. They're
gripping threats to pull at, like Xalatath leading the Nerubians and a connection to being an old god. There's the mysterious zone of Holofall dominated by a massive Naru-like crystal that swaps between light and dark.
Spooky.
A possible hint at the themes of the next expansion called Midnight, which revolves around the cosmic battle between light and void. And remember, these are just public details that we learned from BlizzCon. The alpha was packed with unexpected twists, and I'm just being careful here regarding spoilers. Reflect on the success of Wrath of the Lich King. It was successful because it hinged on the anticipation that was being built up from knowing that the Lich King will one day arrive ever since WoW Classic. So when the famous Wrath trailer finally dropped, it set the internet on fire. And The War Within aims to capture that type of excitement, setting the stage for a 3-expansion saga similar to the arc of WoW Classic, TBC, and then Wrath. And from what I've seen from the first few quests in the alpha, we are in for a thrilling start, and I can't wait to see your community reaction when the story unfolds. The next thing to cover is not really a feature, but it's a commitment. Blizzard continues to listen. And this commitment to listening to player feedback is clearly evident in the recent Dragonflight expansion, which is often seen as a healing expansion due to its responsive development approach. This time around, they're really listening,
place looks cool.
And not just listening, taking action.
At first I thought it was Loch Modan, but it is definitely just not. But it looked like Loch Modan, doesn't it? Like that looks like it could be an updated Loch Modan, but it ain't.
This time around, they're really listening, and not just listening, taking action. My time on the alpha and private Q&A showed me that Blizzard is doubling down on this player-focused approach. Here's a few improvements that is highlight-worthy. The first is NPC work orders. They recognize the frustration of players in Dragonflight struggling to find crafters during off-peak hours in Dragonflight, where you just wanted to fulfill a very basic work order. So, in The War Within, Blizzard is introducing NPC systems to handle work orders in the new content.
Two-handed enhance?
Which means no matter when you play, you potentially can get your items crafted by NPCs, instead of
we heard a lot
waiting for
about
actual human
this
beings
kind of
to
stuff,
respond to your trade
right?
chat. Then they also have revamped mount animations. After the positive reactions to the new dragon riding animations, Blizzard has gone back to the old world to update the animations for older mounts. For example, Mimi Ron's head now features a new open and closed mouth animation while flying. And this wasn't necessary, but it's a welcome nod to enhancing the player experience even with older content. Now, I don't have footage here, but it's something covered in the closed door press event. But you can...
We heard about a lot of that already. That's cool. So I feel like we got a relatively good feel. We can watch Mr. Marcelian a little bit, shall we?
The War Within Alpha is here, and today we're going to be looking at the first hands-on experience with gameplay of class reworks, Delves Dungeons, a lot of UI improvements, and more. And also, if you want to be a part of the testing, get your hands in, send in that feedback. Make sure to check warwithin.blizzard.com and sign up for that access really quick. Although we're not really sure yet if this is going to be coming with the pre-patch for War Within or just with the live release of the expansion, the first thing you're going to see while you're logging into the game is the Warband, which is one of the features coming with War Within, and it looks freaking amazing. Seeing your characters all around the campfire and selecting your ideal one to log in with. So far, what we've tested with the Warband is we only have a total of 4 favorite characters that you're probably going to be selecting and including in this little box here that holds your actual Warband alt. And with this, we're going to have an increase in character slot as well. We've known this for a while. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be expanded to include more. There is a problem with it with showing too many alts on your screen because it just probably will get a little bit more crowded. Although it would be cool to see different Warband screens with different sections of alts or different groups of alts. So far in the alpha, and most likely as it's going to be coming close to release, we're only going to see the best 4 that you will personally choose to be your favorite.
So this is kind of this is part of it, right? The Warband is like, one, it changes the login screen, but the main thing is like you have like a Warband like a bank, and then you also have your Warband rep. So it does actually have an in-game kind of impact. on your whole account. But yeah, it's not a garrison. Yeah, that 5+ alts category. Okay, so you probably would like it if you decided to come back.
Now, although it wasn't actually available to be tested in the very early stages of this alpha, we did have the opportunity to ask questions to the devs, Maria Hamilton and Holly
they gave them
Longdale,
like the green zombie
their
skin.
Design philosophy revolves around unlocking a lot of the stuff account-wide for everybody, because this is the main attraction for the Warband, where you just don't have to do the story again, don't have to get the same achievements again. The major thought process behind this is if it makes sense for your alt to not have to do it again because you've already done it. Like certain achievements can be account wide, some of them probably feats of strength might still be character specific. They will just take that feedback into consideration when they further develop the warband and what actually is going to be free for all of your characters and restricted to specific alts. We're not gonna get too deep into the actual.
Okay, here's some warrior gameplay as well. All right, so this guy's playing Prot, but if he attacks things, I'd like to see what it looks like.
Questing as you load into the zone, because with most, if not all of the alpha, we don't have access to cinematics. We're just thrown into the zones, which the first one is Isle of Dorn. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. But since we're still on the Warband section, you will notice, if you've done this quest already, and my account that I've played through it has, that when you approach a quest, first of all, the icon will be gray, and it will tell you your Warband has already completed this quest. Most likely to signify that, you know, this is something that you can skip, or you don't have to do it again.
You still can take the XP and the gold, right?
And the other option is to actually do it again if you want to play through a repeatable version. So giving you all of the option to engage with the content the way you want to, whether it is to skip it if you don't care to regrind or request the same story again and again and again on all of your alts, or to keep doing it if that's part of your gameplay experience that you want to get through with the War Within. And
that's that Mountain Thane Thunderclap build, huh?
Just a quick side note, although I don't know if we're going to be able to show this on screen since it wasn't part of the game, but it was part of the presentation that we were privy to. There's going to be an overhaul of quest icons, which in the early alpha we didn't have access to because they weren't all implemented just yet. And you'll be able to filter through all of your quests worldwide and actually figure out what the quest is by just looking at the icons. This is like a small UI overhaul where you can definitely make a big difference between repeatable dailies, main campaign quests, and one particular icon.
He's just summoning the dudes. Oh my gosh, DK already has like so many pets and crap, and now they just summon other Death Knights to come attack stuff. Oh my god, you see that rider? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I know some people saying alpha's out like tomorrow. People have been playing like the private alpha, but some people saying that alpha's out like tomorrow, so we'll see.
That you might have seen in the live game. Definitely the first time that I was aware of it.
Summoning the boys.
Game was with the
like what is going on?
Section is the pink triangle, upside down triangle quest marker that indicates an important quest. From what we know, and that's going to be coming in War Within, this will be related to profession quests, to separate content, not necessarily the main campaign.
Shocking the heck out of those things.
Something related to the game mechanics, to the systems, the things that you need to be aware of going to the new expansion, all synthesizing in a much more visually coherent experience for you to understand exactly what you're doing and maybe what you want to be doing with the new questing system. And since we kind of are squeezing into the UI section of the alpha and what War Within comes, obviously we're going to be having UI improvements to a lot of the things. And some of them that we were able to test were related specifically to the talents and the spellbook, which we already knew about.
Spellbook looks different. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited for Kata. I haven't been playing the Kata beta because we've just been doing other stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for new WoW stuff in general. Yeah, just in general, whatever they want to do, it's cool with me. But I haven't been able to dig into like SOD too much, and I haven't really been able to like get into like arena too much in retail either. So I'm kind of out of the loop in some ways. But yeah, I mean, Kata comes out, we'll be playing that. Yeah, and we'll be. I mean, if we ever get access to the alpha or whatever, we'll be playing that too.
From BlizzCon, but now it actually can be played with, and the feeling is amazing to open up your spellbook and actually see more than like 6, 8, 10 icons, however many we
have. But I will say that if I don't get access to the alpha tomorrow or whatever, we're probably just gonna play No Rest for the Wicked. That's what I'm thinking. So we'll see.
Have now and see them all spread out across your screen in a more modern RPG fashion. And what's cool, or maybe not, but you can actually see the spells from the other specs of your class as well. which I don't know if it was necessarily intended, but it did give the sense that, oh, hey, listen, and if you want to play this spell, you gotta swap to this spec. That's the general feeling that the graphical representation, at the very least, of the talent icons
It does look like a lot of abilities when you look at it that way, doesn't it?
Without having to say it again, it just makes going through all of your icons, whether it is general abilities, dragon flying, or what's going to be known as dynamic flying icons, or actual spell icons, or class icons, or anything like that, it's all going to be there and much easier to browse and set up on your bars.
Yeah, I know where the horsemen are coming from. Yeah, I read over that her hero talent thing. It's just funny. You're summoning ghouls and all these undead creatures, and also other death knights. Like, it's just kind of funny, don't you think? But yeah, I know where it's coming from.
What we were able to notice is that since there's no need for the spellbook to be like a separate UI interactable button, or it doesn't need one anyway, you now have an extra button at your mini menu bar at the bottom right, depending on how you have your UI
slow
set up.
zoom.
That's going to be the profession one. Just a little quick note here. We didn't test professions yet, but it is there, and it's going to change a little bit how you interact with your character. In terms of the new zone and the questing with it, it's very limited in what we have access to, because probably they don't want us to give a lot of spoilers to the story and everything. The cinematics are particularly just text-based information. This is going to happen. That character is going to be talking with that character. A big explosion, boom, you're going to the other city or whatever. That's generally the cinematics that we're gonna have access to. Other than that, it's just regular, you know, get into the new zone. These are the new people there. These are the new enemies. It's an intro quest, which is fine. The quests are okay, but the Isle of Dorn is the first zone that you're going to be encountering in the new expansion, and the first one that we have had access to while testing it, and it is amazing, considering that we're going to be approaching this with the dragon riding or dragon flying or dynamic flying, how it's going to be called in the future, mechanic in mind, which is a stark contrast to how we have the...
He's manifesting it. He's 250k subs. Get him there, boys. He's at 164. Manifesting. I respect that.
The Dragonflight zone, since at least Isle of Dorn, although it's very big and we did have access to a big section of it, it doesn't feel like it has that much verticality like, let's say, Waking Shores had for Dragonflight when you were introduced to the dragon riding system, which we're just, for ease of access, we're going to call dynamic flying, since that's generic. Now we're gonna have all of it.
We are outside at this point,
the moment that we step in onto the Isle of Dorn, and the first capital that we're gonna be getting into, because we're gonna be seeing dwarfs left and right, is Dornogal, and dwarfs are gonna be a big factor of the story into how we're gonna be progressing through War Within. This is going to be our capital city as well, as we work towards releasing it from the Nerubian infestation and attacks that's going on. Once again, we don't know what the story entails. We just see bugs, we squish bugs, and that's it.
Get them out of here.
Delves are also a very much anticipated feature of the War Within.
A lot about delves.
Everybody has questions about it, and we've had the opportunity to test the first one, which comes in very early into your questing zone, kind of like 20-30 minutes into the story progression. You're going to meet Bran, and Bran is going to be taking you into the Delves. Now, if you haven't seen anything regarding War Within and you don't know what Delves are essentially the new system of War Within.
We'll let him tell us about it anyway.
As a combination of dungeons
I like seeing the gameplay
and the way that they play. Now, you might hear
similar,
Torghast and might have reservations, but hear me out. It's most likely not what you think. The reason we're comparing them to a cross between Dungeons and Torghast is because, as far as Dungeons are concerned, the layout is fairly similar, where you go from room to room, you clear trash, you beat a big boss at the end. The mobs and enemies progressively get stronger and stronger as you go forward, and at the end you just get fat loot. That's as much of a dungeon as anything can be. Torghast, in the sense that we can probably say Torghast, we can probably say Plunderstorm, we can probably say Cobalt Assembly, is that you have actually access to powers as you progress to the dungeons. Here in this footage, when Marcelian was just killing a big ass mushroom, he got a double jump effect and an extra heal on his mechanics, and going through further deep into the delve, he unlocked further powers like a 1-minute divine shield.
What is he talking about?
Stat increase overall. There's probably going to
be not Marcelian?
All sorts of powers that you can go through, most likely making the content replayable, repeatable, and having a different flavor each time you approach.
That looks cool.
Now the delve is essentially
the DK horse.
When you first encounter it, whether you do it through the quest storyline as it gets you introduced to the mechanic, or just seeing them in the open world at max level like it's going to be intended to be engaged with, you're going to see like this entrance covered in fog, and then you just clear the fog and you go in. And
I'm glad that it starts at tier 2, it looks like.
And of course, Bran will associate you in. And this is a very important part of the
Their
mechanic
team?
because
Oh.
Bran acts
who's
as
this guy?
follower assistance type thing, and it can actually fill a specific role depending on what you play. Because if you play something like a healer or a tank, you might want Bran to fill up.
I've had my editor do a commentary or two recently.
Bran can be a healer or a DPS, and it will help you along the way. There are all sorts of abilities that Bran will have access to as Bran levels up through the encounter, and they slightly differ between combat and healer at the moment. We're not sure if these exact abilities are going to remain until the release of the expansion, but you can see that most of them are similar. Bran is essentially what we would consider a hunter. He has a gun and he shoots things, but he occasionally has some helpful abilities if you opt to have Bran as a healer, or DPS abilities if you go for the combat
like a Trank. That's cool.
And as you progress through the delves and through the system, you'll unlock more stuff like trinkets and further customizational options for Bran to give you the sense of an RPG. When you go into your delve, you'll also see that it has
I like that idea a lot.
And within the first level of alpha, and most
leveling
likely
up stuff for your follower. That's cool.
80, you'll have access to the first 2 tiers. The first one would be the normal version of the delve, which has close to probably no difficulty as you're going through your leveling process. Tier 2 will get slightly more difficult, and it goes up and up and up until so far we have 10 tiers. And in the interview that we've had access to, we know that they're essentially in terms of their
tier 10 is
philosophy,
Mythic
they
10,
want the tier 10 difficulty delves to be kind of on par with the Mythic plus 10 difficulty dungeon, both in terms of the actual skill required to clear the delve, but also the rewards that you get. Now, this is not set in stone, so it is subject to change, but at least we know where they're thinking of this delve system to be, considering that the plus 10 that we have now in Dragonflight is equivalent to a plus 20 that we've had in previous seasons. So we can probably assume that the delves is going to be a parallel endgame system to acquire gear and do other stuff. Most likely not replacing Mythic Plus, but being a side op. And all of this because delves will also contribute to your vault rewards in the end, since we've known this from BlizzCon, while the PvP vault system will be having its own separate thing with vendors. And of course, with delves, we'll still have dungeons, and the one that we've been able to test in the first version of the alpha testing was the Rookery, and it's what you probably imagine from a dwarf type dungeon. It's going to be located in the Isle of Dorn. It's one of the first ones that you have access to. And if I'm not mistaken, it's even in the actual capital city.
You think he's Mountain Thanen? Yeah, absolutely is.
The mechanics. We didn't unlock
all that empowered thunderclap, that is Mountain Thane.
But in terms of the dungeon, it definitely looks like a very intro-friendly dungeon. It has very basic mechanics, although obviously we've only tested the initial version of the alpha. Things might change by the time you actually get your hands on it, but it looked really cool. We're outside, we're fighting all of these bad dwarfs, which you're going to find out about as you go through the story, and there's a lot of void shenanigans going around. You're gonna be flying on the Storm Griffin, Storm Riders, whatever they're called, and it's
in a group
cool.
with a warrior named
and you go deeper into the mountain. It gives you a big kind of Hobbit / Lord of the Rings feeling as you dive deeper into the mountain and fight dangers beneath. But overall, it's a refreshing change of pace. We didn't get too deep into the dungeon system since we only had time to check out one of them. And it's the basic version of it. It's not Mythic Plus, it's not with all fleshed out mechanics, but it's looking good and a nice change of pace from the Dragonflight dungeons. And last but not least, something that's probably on a lot of people's minds are the class reworks. In this wave of alpha testing, with what we've
Fury
had
mode right there.
hands on, we know that Warrior, specifically Fury and Arms, are going to be reworked. We already had access to the talents, and I've played through a bunch of them, and I'm gonna tell you how awesome it is. Druid as well with Balance, Feral Resto, Paladin.
Is that what you're trying to link me, regular?
Holy, Evoker with Preservation, and lastly, Monk with Windwalker and
is that what you're trying to link me?
And a bunch of classes with their class talent.
We need to look at that.
Changed as well. We're gonna have
Arms and Fury
videos
reworks.
on all of these individually, so you know exactly what
we're gonna need to know about that
and where the spec is going for. And don't fret. You're going to be seeing these class reworks expanded to probably all of the classes, because from the ones that we've been able to test, it's very obvious that the intention of the class rework, as always, is to kind of make the design choice.
Send it. Wally D Gamer, thanks, man. Big flex for you. Thanks for pumping us up, dude. Yeah, link it. Link it.
Concise, make the class play well and feel well and be fun, but also to facilitate the implementation of the hero talents. Because as we know, particularly with Warrior that you're seeing right now on the screen, Shockwave is a big important ability for the hero talents, and it's been moved from a capstone, which was a controversial choice to begin with, to something a little bit more in the middle. And if we're going to be taking the hero talents as an example, not going to dive too deep on it, it's very clear that they're fixing a lot of the issues with talent distribution, where the utility is, where the defensives are, where your damage is coming from, and making everything feel less annoying to pick and with fewer talent choices to spend on exactly what you want to get.
Hey, oh, wait a minute. Why is Piercing Howl way the heck down here? Hold on now. Wait a minute now. That's a long way down. And then we have to get all this stuff. Wait a minute.
Of course, Fury is getting Blade Storm. More on that on our Fury video.
Wait a minute.
Over the last couple of expansions, we've tested plenty of alphas before, and we have to say that having access to the earliest version possible of the alpha, this is a lot of stuff in the game, and a lot of stuff is working really well for it being an alpha stage. And what this essentially says, if you are curious for a little bit of a hook, a meat, a something to drag you into the game or to reassure you that War Within has the potential to be an amazing expansion, is this.
You guys see those Twilight Devastations going off?
In past expansions,
I want those
they're doing a lot more work with a lot more people and listening to a lot more feedback than before. And if this...
Good job, Marcelian. Good job, buddy.